Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my most humble obeisances. Today we are finishing our course on Sri Tattva-sandarbha. This is the book which is meant to strengthen our faith in Krishna, in devotional service, in the Vedas, in Shrimad Bhagavatam, that we are eternal servant of Krishna. And Jiva Goswami, he uses different technologies or different ways how to convey that understanding, how to instill it in our hearts. So that's why we have passed already this Pramana Khanda, where Jiva Goswami established the authority of Shrimad Bhagavatam as the highest Pramana or the source of knowledge. Then he, in the second part, Prameya Khanda, he speaks about the what is the Prameya. Prameya means what is to be understood or investigated, or what is the highest absolute truth, which is speaking in the Shrimad Bhagavatam. And he shown by the vision of the Vakta, the speaker of Shrimad Bhagavatam, which is Shukadeva Goswami, and then Pravakta, the original sage through whom Bhagavatam manifested in this world, Srila Vyasadeva, that both of them, they saw absolute truth as the personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Bhagavan means Krishna along with his energies, right? And then that was the Sambandha, not impersonal Sambandha. And while speaking about the vision of Srila Vyasadeva, Srila Jiva Goswami, he refuted all different theories of Mayavada philosophers, all their views, like Pratimbimba Vada, Paricheda Vada, Vivarta Vada, Ekajiva Vada, different ways how they try to explain how one Brahman became many. And especially how he got, like, why we see in this material world so many sufferings. Anandamaya Pyasat, although we should be happy, but what is the source of sufferings? And they try to introduce this ajnana, or ignorance, which is anirvachaniya. It at the same time exists and not exists. So in this way, we shown how Srila Jiva Goswami, he deals with all these arguments, and then how he also, on the basis of the vision of Srila Vyasadeva, he shown that Shrimad Bhagavatam teaches us the highest truth, highest goal, which is the Prema Bhakti. And to achieve Prema Bhakti, we need to hear about Krishna. And this verse, Yasamai Shriyamane Krishna Pram Purusha Bhaktiru Padite Pumsam Shoka Moha Bhaya Paha, that while hearing about Krishna as it is in Shrimad Bhagavatam, Bhaktiru Padite Pumsam, very soon in our heart the bhakti, the devotion will arise. And then Shoka Moha Bhaya Apaha, the Jiva Goswami calls it Anusangiki Bhavani Bhalani, the following, how to say, like the secondary fruits of hearing about Krishna. Shoka Moha Bhaya. Shoka means like we have time, which has three phases: past, present, and future. And Shoka is the lamentation about what was in the past. Why did I commit such a terrible sin? Why didn't I started studying Krishna consciousness from the very childhood? Like, so many lamentations are there. So this is the shoka. Then moha. What shall I do now? Shall I go here or here? Shall I go there? Shall I take a vaccination from coronavirus, or shall I not take vaccination? So many different things are there. And then bhaya means the fear about the future. What is going to be in the future? Maybe some war will be there, or some economical crisis, or will I be able to survive? I might get sick, and I might even die. But Shrimad Bhagavatam is the book which brings our consciousness to the higher level. And we'll speak about it today. That Srila Jiva Goswami in one of the previous Anuchedas, in the Anucheda 32, he spoke that Jiva is Chitrupa, which means that it is the spiritual consciousness, but then Jiva also possesses consciousness. So at the same way, it's the consciousness and the possessor of the consciousness. And it's in our abilities to direct our consciousness either to matter or to Krishna. And if you direct it into matter, into material world, then what happens, material world is being created by time. It's also a little bit esoteric, but still it's written in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, especially how Krishna, through the means of time, as the Nimitta Karana, creates this material world. So if our consciousness is there in the material world, what happens? We come under the influence of time. And then that's what is spoken in Srimad Bhagavatam, Ayurha 2:3:17. Ayurha Rati Vepamsam Udyanastan Chana Sao. That every sunrise and sunset, they bring us closer to death. But then, but if we direct our consciousness to hearing about Krishna, no, time stops working on you. So what it means that we take our consciousness and we direct it to Krishna. And because Krishna is transcendental, he is the controller of time, he's above time. So that's why such a living entity can go higher, he can cross over the time. And then under the spiritual time, which is there in the spiritual world, which is the manifestation of Yoga Maya, is different kind of time. Then whatever happens in our life will be the parts of the Krishna's pastimes. We can enter into Krishna pastimes, and in Krishna's pastimes, Krishna can make time stop or go it more quick or more slow. He can just use time as he likes it, as it is needed for his pastimes. So that's the mystery of Srimad Bhagavatam, that all three phases of time, all the sufferings which are caused by the three phases of time, they will be mitigated just by hearing about Krishna. Such a wonderful things. And then he spoke that Srila Vyasadeva, he taught Srimad Bhagavatam to his son, Shukadeva Goswami. Why? Because he was the most qualified. Vyasadeva was sure that Shukadeva Goswami won't change anything in Srimad Bhagavatam, and especially that he will preserve Srimad Bhagavatam and even increase the understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yaksvanubhavam akila shuti saramekam. Anubhava, which means the realization of Shukadeva Goswami, like a parrot who touches the mango fruit and it becomes even sweeter. Then, in the same way, Srila Shukadeva Goswami, he spoke Srimad Bhagavatam, and he not only preserved it as it was, but he even added something unique to Srimad Bhagavatam. And then, although he was Nivritti Nirata, he was already attached to the self-realization. And then, because he studied Srimad Bhagavatam, Nitya Mishnu Jana Priyaha, he became very dear to the Vaishnavas, and Vaishnavas became dear to him. And we spoke last thing that Krishna Katha, that's something wonderful. It's like the higher solution of all the problems in this material life, but at the same time, it's very, very tasty. It's very nice to hear about Krishna, about his wonderful qualities, especially now when Kartik time is there. So whole month you can meditate on Krishna. You can hear about him, and Swapam api urukarakaha. Rupa Goswami tells in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that even small efforts which you can make in order to divert your consciousness from matter to Krishna, to Krishna's pastimes, to Krishna's qualities and Krishna's holy name. Swapam api urukarakaha. In the month of Damodara Masa, Yatha Bhagavato Yatha Damodaro Bhakta Vatsala Vidite Janaich. tasyatat evamasa ksiyat svapam ap urkarakaha. This is the verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1 to 221, that in the same way as Krishna, as Bhaktavatsala, he is very merciful to his devotees. In the same way, his month, Damadara Masa, is also very merciful. And svapam api urkarakaha. Even if you make very, very little effort during the time, urukarakaha, you can get very, very high results. And the most perfect result that you can become transcendental to the modes of material nature, and then you can perform pure devotional service on the level of pure bhakti. That's the highest blessings you can get during this Kartika month. So that's the like results which you can get, you can discern, how to say, take from the this part of Srimad Bhagavatam, which Jiva Goswami explained it, about the vision of Srila Vyasadeva, how great impersonalist he became a great Vaishnava, Shukadeva Goswami, and who became then the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then he put the same intention in his words, that Krishna is Supreme Lord, Krishna is worthy of our service. So in that way he saved he gave an opportunity to every one of us through Krishna Katha, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam as it was spoken by Shukadeva Goswami. We can get the same result. Okay, so that was the first part of the Prameya Khanda, which Srila Jiva Goswami used to show what is the Tattva, what is the Sambandha spoken in Srimad Bhagavatam. And then in the second part, he is going to use what is called Vachya Vachakata Sambandha, but like connection between the words of the book and the Vachya Vachakata, and Vachya means the topic of the book, the goal of the book, how to say, the object of the book. But before that, he is going to speak about Tattva in general. Just 51st Anusheda, they speak in very, very general term, what is that Tattva? And then he is going to speak about also about the microcosmos, how we can understand Supreme Lord, Supreme Tattva by investigating what is there in our heart, what is the nature of us, jivas, living entities. And then by microcosmos, which means that we can understand the nature of this ashraya, or the supreme shelter of every sin, by studying the universe. And Srimad Bhagavatam does it in both ways, by microcosmos and microcosmos. Like, and that's the end of the Shri Tattva-sandarbha. So let's start the next Anusheda, 50th Anusheda, where Jiva Goswami speaks about the importance that we have to see the Tattva in very, very general way. He takes Srimad Bhagavatam, how it describes Tattva. But before that, let us chant these prayers of Mangalacharan, and then we proceed. Okay. Om Gana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vanchakalpataro Vyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yatkripatamaham vande shigurum jinataranam Shirupacharana-dvandva raginam rajabhasinam Shijivam sadatam vande Mandeshwanandadayanam. So, in the 5th Chanasheda, Jiva Goswami says, to definitely establish the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam as outlined above, the 6 sandarbhas set forth in detail the topics one after another of Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. To begin with, in the verse Dharma Projita Kaitava, this is the Bhagavatam 1.1.2. The words Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu, it's the second line of this verse, discuss in general term the truth with which this scripture has a relationship between what is to be described and that which describes it. That's the Vachikata Sambandha, as we said, is part of the Anubandha Chatushta. And Jiva Goswami, he spoke about that already in the 9th verse of Tattva-sandarbha. Then he distracted into Pramana Khanda to establish what are the reliable means of understanding the Tattva. And then he spoke about the vision of Shukadeva Goswami and Srila Vyasadeva. Now he returns to the Vachikata Sambandha. Right? And then, as we said, the structure of the Anusheda is that he gives his own introductory statement, then he takes the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam as Vishaya Vakya, the verse under the explanation. Yeah? And that's the verse Dharma Projita Kaitava. And Jiva Goswami is not going to explain the whole verse, he just takes one line of this verse. There's the uniqueness of Sandarbhas, because Jiva Goswami sometimes he just takes few words or few lines of one particular verse, which conveys the idea he wants to prove. And then he's given explanation by Sridhara Swami. And then he says, Atra tika cha. Tika cha means that tika means the commentary. Whose commentary? Commentary of Sridhara Swami. Right? And then he says, Sridhara Swami, in his commentary on this verse, says, in this Shrimati Sundari, Shrimate Sundari, Bhagavate Vastavam Paramatma Bhutam Vastu Vedyam Natu Vaisheshikadi Tadravya Gunadi Rupam It Esha Shri Veda Vyasaha. It Esha means the indicator of the end of the commentary. Like it was the quotation from Sridhara Swami's commentary, and then it's Isha. It's like a parenthesis. It finishes, and then Shri Veda Vyasaha. The verse under the explanation Dharma Projita Kaita Uttara Paramo Nirmat Sralam Satam was spoken by Srila Vyasadeva. Okay? And then what is important here that this we should understand the tattva, which is Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu, which means that is the Vastu, is the essence of everything, is the like the substance, is the shelter of everything, the source of everything, that on which everything depends on. So, and this is the Vastu, but not just Vastu, as he says that not to Vaisheshikadi Vat Dravya Gunadi Rupam. Sridhara Swami explains that in the Vaisheshika philosophy, they also introduce different categories of reality, and those are like substance, dravya, quality, guna, movement, karma, generality, jati, individuality, vishesha, inherence, samavaya, and absence, abhava. So those are what Kapila Muni, Kanada Muni in his Vaisheshika Sutras, how he explains what is the highest reality. Like is it composed of all those four characteristics. But this is just by the means of nyaya. Nyaya means anumana, means some external understanding. But Srila Jiva Goswami says that in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu. Vastu is the highest reality. But Vastavam Vastu. Vastavam Vastu, the reality alone with his energies. So that's the conception of Bhagavan. Bhagavan means Supreme Lord along with his energies. As we know in the Chaturshloki Srimad Bhagavatam, in the very first verse, Hameva Samevagreya Nandyatsyatsa Sa Param Pashatakam Ham Tadeta Cha Yova Shishita Sosmi Ham. Krishna tells that before the creation existed only me. Then when creation arises, appeared, also only me exists. So it means that material energy is not something different from Krishna, it's also him. And then when material world will be destroyed, also only he will remain, he will remain to exist. So that's why all those phases of existence, everything which we see in this material world, Krishna, his internal energy, his spiritual world, his avatars, then the living entities, material world, everything is just vastu. And then vastavam vastu, that's the reality which exists along with its energies. And then, because it's very difficult to understand, Jiva Goswami says that this word Vedyam means you should try to understand it. Like in Vedanta Sutra, Janmati Syaitaha. The second sutra speaks about what is the vastu, what is the reality. In the same way as here it is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. But Athato Brahma Jignasa, it's time to ask questions about that absolute truth. And in the commentary to this verse from Vedanta Sutra, our acharyas, they explained that it will be useless to try to understand this absolute truth if it would be not understandable. And therefore, Vedyam can mean two things. Vedyam means that you should try to understand it. And then Vedya, because it's Vidhilin, this suffix which you put to the word Vid means, one of the meaning of the Vidhilin in Sanskrit means samarthya, that it's possible to understand it. You can understand it as it is. So that's why, and then Vedya Mastamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayom Mulanam. When you understand it, those two things will appear. Shiva, Dam. Shiva means all auspicious, everything good which is there. And then Tapatraya Unmulana. The threefold sufferings of this material world, they will be completely uprooted. You will be happy. No problem, everything is okay. Kreshagni Shubhada, those two qualities of pure bhakti. So that's why Jiva Goswami, he says that because we want to just in a very general way understand what is the Tattva, it means Tattva, Supreme Lord, along with all his energies. That's the summum bonum, that's the Ashraya, as it will be explained later on in second part of the Prameya Khanda, about the Ashraya in the terms of whole universe, that is the shelter of everything, both jivas and matter and demigods and so on. So that's the first verse Jiva Goswami uses to, in a very, very general way, to speak about the Tattva. And then he takes another verse also in the 51st Anusheda from the also Srimad Bhagavatam 1 to 11, very, very famous verse. He says, Atha kim svarupam tadvastu tattvam ityatraha. What is the svarupa? What is the essence of this vastu? Before that it was spoken, Vedyam matram atra vastu, that's the vastu, that's the essence of everything. But what is the qualities of that vastu? And then he says, he quotes this verse, Vedanti tattva vedas tattvam yaj jnanam advayam. Those who know the tattva call it non-dual consciousness. And then he starts explaining What does it mean, non-dual consciousness? He says, Jnanam advayam chit eka rupam advayatvam chasya svayam siddha tadrisha atadrisha tattva-sandarbha bhavat svashakti eva eka sahayatvat paramashayam tam vina tasam asitthatva cha. So he says that three qualities why this knowledge, that tattva is called, why that vastu, the essence of everything, is called tattva. He says, first reason, and actually it's very important. Just, dear devotee, please remember this Anushketa, 51st Anushketa, because it can give you like very coherent understanding of who is Krishna. Unfortunately, I don't have much time to explain it, but anyway, it's I'll try as far as possible. He says, Advayatvam, why is non-dual? First, Chasya Svayam Siddha. Svayam Siddha, it's the tattva is non-dual in the sense that no other independently manifested tattvas exist, similar to or dissimilar. That it's the only tattva which exists. So he says, Svayam Siddha Tadrisha Atadrisha Tattva Antara Abhavat. Abhava. There is no any tattvas which are similar to it or not similar to it. And then Svayam Siddha, which are independent of it. So basically what Jiva Goswami says that tattva is the source of everything. And no other tattva exists. Like Mayavadi, they cannot explain what is the Maya. They say that it's anirachaniya. And Jiva Goswami tells, yes, nothing is there. No other, only one. Advaya means that only one tattva is there. But all energies, they are inherent to it. Like they are parts of this energy. And no Svayam Siddha Tadrisha Atadrisha. Like Tadrisha similar to the tattva or dissimilar, different from the tattva. Like Brahman, like it's spiritual consciousness. And then Maya is completely different. So Jiva Goswami tells, no Maya can exist. When we speak about the material energy, it's also tattva, it's also part of this vastu. Because of that, it's advaya. Then, like first is that it is composed of all the energies of the reality. All energies are there. And then question arises. Okay, if all this energy are his energies, does that mean that he enjoys in all those energies? Jiva Goswami tells, no. Svashakti eka sahayatvat. That only Sva-Shakti. Sva-Shakti means his internal energies. They help him in his activities. Which energies? First of all, it's Yoga Maya energy, which is, has three functions. Sankhini, Sankhini Shakti, the energy of existence, then Samvit Shakti, the energy of knowledge, and Hladini Shakti, the energy of bliss or Ananda. And then Jiva Goswami, like in more details, explains it in the Bhagavata-sandarbha, when he says that those energies, they are useful in order to manifest Krishna's existence and existence of everything else. So although Krishna, he is the Supreme Lord, still he depends on his energies. Like his body is creation of the Sankhini Shakti. Then his identity, I am the son of Mother Yashoda, I am the friend of Subal Shridam and so on. I am the lover of Shrimati Radharani, Larita Vishaka Devi and so on. So his identity, that's the Chit Shakti in the highest sense. Like when we understand our Svarupa, we also consider ourselves as the servant of Krishna, or the friends of Krishna, or the parents of Krishna, or the lovers of Krishna, or some other things. So this is the part of our original spiritual identity. And Krishna also, his identity is also made, or manifested through the internal energy. Chit Shakti. Krishna, like Krishna's external, his body, is one of his energy, Sankhya Shakti. Then Krishna's internal, his heart, is also his energy, Chit Shakti, or Samvit Shakti. And then his, let us say that Vijnanam Anandam Brahma. Then Brahman or Krishna, the absolute truth is the Ananda, is the bliss, Ananda Maya Prasad. But then Krishna's bliss, Krishna's happiness is also one of his energy, is Hladini Shakti. Wow. So where is Krishna? If Krishna is composed of his energies, where is him? Does it mean that he dissolves in his energies? And Jiva Goswami tells, Paramashayam tan vina tasam asit tattva cha. That still all those energies, they depend on him. He is the possessor of those energies. Wow! And that's the achintya. That's we cannot understand. Achintya, how the bhavana tam starke and yojaet. You can understand that they are not different from Krishna. Krishna is made of those energies. But how he's different from them is difficult to understand. At the same time, different and non-different. So that's what Jiva Goswami tells about that. Three qualities of Krishna. Krishna, along with his energies, but there is a hierarchy amongst the energies of Krishna. Krishna is not directly connected to Maya. Maya Dakshina Prakritik Sute Sacharacharam. He tells in the Bhagavad Gita that only through the glance, through the Kala Shakti, he interacts with Maya. Vyajamana says how to make Shapataya Maya. Maya also doesn't want to interact with Krishna directly because she is shy to stand in front of him. Krishna interacts only with the spiritual energies directly. So hierarchy is there. And although he is made of spiritual energy, like Sankhya Shakti, is the energy of existence. Asti sthapayati cha. Krishna asti, he exists because of this energy. And then sthapayati, he creates, like he sustains, he supports all the existence by the Sankhya Shakti. Then the Samvit Shakti, Janati Gyapayati cha. He knows himself, his identity by the Samvit Shakti. And Gyapayati cha, he gives the knowledge and understanding to everyone else by the Shakti. And then Hladini Hladayati cha, by the energy of Hladini Shakti. He experiences bliss, and then by the same energy, he gives bliss to everyone else. He is the source of bliss. But his bliss is made of Hladini Shakti. And still, he is different from those energies. That's what Jiva Goswami speaks here in the 50th verse of Nasheda. You see, just a few sentences, but such a complicated picture of what this tattva is. And then it's not everything. Then he says, Tattvam iti parama purusharthata jyotanaya paramasuk krupatvam tasya bodhyate. Ata eva tasya nityatvam cha darshitam. It's also very complicated how to put it together, but still in the Srila Baladev Pushana, in his just a second, in his commentary, he gives an explanation of what is the tattva. Tattvam vadya prabhede syat sarupye paramatmani. Tattva is a particular musical instrument or some kind of music. Then vadya prabheda, then essential identity of something, svarupa, and paramatmani, or the supreme soul. So we can know that the first explanation of tattva is some musical performance. Which kind of musical performance? For us in Kali Yuga, it is the kirtan. So kirtan, the holy name, all tattva, all reality is there in the holy name. And then svarupa is the source of everything. Harinama eva kevalam. And then is the tattva is the supreme Lord, supreme soul. So that's the explanation Jiva Goswami gives here, that parama purusha arthata dyotanaya parama sukha rupatvam tasya. bodhite. That when we come into contact with this tattva, we can get the highest bliss, highest happiness. And then ata eva tasya nityatvam cha darshitam. And because it's Swayamsiddha means that it's independent, and that's why it's always full of bliss. Tasya cha nityatvam. Jiva Goswami tells that the tattva should be eternal. Why eternal? Because if we depend on something, our happiness, our like abilities, we won't be able to maintain it. That's why, because this tattva is self-svayamsiddha, which means that it's independent. Apigyat svarat. Svarat means that it's not dependent on anything else. So that's why its existence, because it's not dependent on anything else, is nitya. If we Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, you have to unmute.
Give me this.
Yeah. You have to mute.
I think it was tattva which manifested through Chaitanya Prem Prabhu. Some kind of musical performance. So this way, Jiva Goswami he tells, like it's also difficult to understand, Ata eva tasya nityatvam chadarshatam, that it's nitya. Why it's nitya? Why it's internal? Because it's Swayamsiddha, it's independent. But we just told that it depends on his own energies. And Jiva Goswami tells, yes, it depends and also it depends at the same time. How to put it together, achintya, you won't be able to understand. Is it clear? Does it make sense? It's like Jiva Goswami, he says that it's very, very general understanding of the tattva, how it's spoken in Shrimad Bhagavatam. And this verse, Tattvam Jnanam Advayam, then Jiva Goswami he takes it in the Sarva-sammadhini to Bhagavata-sandarbha, Bhagavat, the second sandarbha. And then he uses different arguments of Mayavadis, and then because they take it Advaya Tattva. Advaya, we are Advaitavadi, so that is our Tattva. It should be Brahman, no difference, nothing. And then Jiva Goswami he deals with all the arguments of Mayavadi, he refutes them, and then he establishes that Tattva is just what he said here, that this is Bhagavan alone with his energies, and there is a hierarchy of those energies. Okay, is it okay? Is it understandable? No, like in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yes, thank you. Jai. Just remember this Anushcheta. It's very, very important, right? I didn't go into details. Like so many things are there. We can speak, but we don't have time, unfortunately. Then 52nd Anushcheta. He continues. Nanu Nila Patach akaranam kshanikam eva jnanam trishtam tatpunar advayam nityam jnanam katham lakshate yan nishtkam idam shastram it atraha. Well, my object, by awareness, jnana, like we said that we have jivas is consciousness, is also is the possessor of the consciousness. In the same way as Krishna is consciousness, and also he possesses consciousness. But awareness jnana is only a momentary phenomenon, temporarily marked by various forms, blue objects, yellow objects, and so on. How then can the subject matter of this scripture be identified as jnana, defined as being non-dual and eternal? Okay, it's a good argument, because we can see that our consciousness can become contaminated or pure, like some, as we gave this example, like you take this bottle, and then if you, like different upadhras or different things, you take black, something black behind, and it becomes black. Then if you take some red behind, it becomes red colored. So in the same way, we are spiritual soul, the consciousness, and then our consciousness becomes colored in contact with different things in this material world. Some variety is there, some changes are there. So how to put it together? That is tattvam jnanam advayam, non-dual consciousness. Duality is there, red, blue, yellow, and so on. Different qualities are there. It changes. How to put it together? And then Jiva Goswami he quotes the verse, very mystical verse from Shrimad Bhagavatam. You are going to study it at the very, very end of 12th canto. 12, 13, 12. It is said, Sarva saram yat brahmatvai katvalakshanam vastvadi advityam tan nishtham kaivalyaika prayojanam. Oh, Krishna. You can imagine just whole Srimad Bhagavatam was speaking about Krishna as the Supreme Lord, Bhakti as the highest means to achieve success, Prema as the highest goal. But then this Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedanta philosophy, because its subject matter is the absolute truth, which, while non-different from the spiritual soul, is the ultimate reality, one without a second. The goal of this literature is exclusive devotional service into that supreme truth. Is the already modified translation of this verse. But if you take what literally Srimad Bhagavatam says, Sarva Vedanta Saram Yat. In that book, Srimad Bhagavatam, there is Sarva Vedanta Saram, the essence of all Vedanta. Brahmatva Eka Brahma Atma Ekatva Lakshanam. And it speaks about the Ekatva, the non-duality between Brahma and Atma. Wow! Spiritual soul and Brahman, they are one actually. And Mayavadi, when they see this verse, they say, okay, nice, finally, this is the final conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam. Everything is one. And what was spoken before, it's just some kind of word jugglery. So that's why they take, okay, Srimad Bhagavatam speaks about that. And then, Vastvadvityam tan nishtham, that everything is one, tan nishtham. And nishtha, it means that Bhagavatam from the beginning, in the middle, and at the end speaks about this vast advitya, that everything is one. And then, what is the goal of Srimad Bhagavatam? Kaivalya eka prayojana. Prayojana, the goal is kaivalya. What is kaivalya? Impersonal liberation. Hare Krishna. What does it mean? Does it mean that we have to just give up our gurus, our Guru Maharajas, like Shripada, Rakanath Maharaj, Niranjana Maharaj, Bhaktivibhava Maharaj, Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, give up these gurus, bogus gurus, and go to Mayavadi gurus to take initiation from them? Because Srimad Bhagavatam speaks that everything is one, and we should become Mayavadi. How to put it together? And then Jiva Goswami gives his own explanation. And it's fantastic explanation. Please, I won't be able to give all the details of this explanation, but please read it yourself when you come home, like in the commentary or the verse. He says, Iti satim jnanam anantam brahma. Iti yasya svarupam uktam. The svarupa, the essence of this, like Sarva Vedanta Saram Yat. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is spoken what is the essence of all Vedanta. Verses such as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahman is eternal existence and consciousness, unlimited. Then he says, Iti yat vijnanena sarva vijnanam pratigyatam sattva samyadam agra asit. It's adhyana nikila jagat eka karanata. That this tattva is the only cause of the entire universe is stated in phrases such as, hearing of which lives nothing unheard. If you understand him, you will understand everything. And then, by discernment of which all that is to be discerned becomes known. And then also Sattva-sandarbha chayasya pratipa Sat eva samyam agra asit. Also one sutra that Brahman, dear boy, in the beginning there was only Sat, the internal reality. That's the meaning that Srimad Bhagavatam is the sarva karana, the cause of everything. That the intention of these tattvas are always fulfilled is expressed by the words. That this tattva is satya sankalpa. Whatever he wants, it becomes the fact. It comes into existence. It appears. And then the verse is Krishna. Tat ayakshata bahu syam, also from Upanishads. He glanced and desired, let me become many. Then the one characteristic of this tattva that most effectively helps one begin to understand its nature is that this tattva shares with the jiva its integral part, yet a separate spiritual entity, oneness in substance. Vastu advityam tan nishtha. Brahmatva, Brahma Atma, Ekatva Lakshana, as it says in the verse. But Vastu Advitya, not full non-difference, but in substance, Vastu Advitya. And then it is said this oneness is known from such statements as you are that, Tattva-masi. Then the Supreme is called Brahman because it is the greatest, Brihattama, in terms of its essential self and its energies. And such jiva is spoken of in relationship with the Supreme when it is said that the jiva accompanies the Brahman and that Brahman enters matter along with this jiva soul. Although the adjective this in the phrase this jiva, anena jivatmana, like Jiva Goswami explains this verse from the Upanishads, indicates that the jiva is separate from Brahman. That the jiva is called soul shows that he has a special relationship of substantial oneness with Brahman. And then in trance Badarayana Vyasa perceived all this reasoning, which establishes that the jiva is not absolutely one with the Supreme. And we remember that Apashat Purusham Purunam Mayam Chatata Pashrayam, he saw Krishna, then Maya, and then Yaya Samohita Jiva, also jivas. Not just only Krishna, but he saw Krishna and jivas. And Maya can influence jivas, but Maya is under Krishna's control, so they are different. So in this way, Jiva Goswami he connects it to the vision of Srila Vyasadeva, which he analyzed before. And then, most interesting, the words Shri Bhagavatam in the preceding verse, Bhagavatam 12:13-9, establishes that the verse under the discussion and indeed refers to Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he says, suppose someone who has been, and then he starts it's a very, first part of this Anusheda speaks in a very, very general term. What is Tattva? What is Brahman? Sarva Vedanta Saram Yat Brahmatva Ekatva Lakshanam. That is the essence of all Vedantas. And then it's, in substance, it's not different from Jivas. But then, he says, suppose someone who has been kept prisoner, like he starts describing the Vachikata Sambandha of microcosmos. How, by analyzing the essence of Jiva, we can understand what is the Brahman. Because Vastu Advityam, in essence, they are not different. So therefore, by knowing the Jiva, we can understand Brahman. As take, for example, the big ocean of salty water. If you take one drop of this water, you can see the chemical composition of the whole water in the whole ocean. In the same way, if you understand the essence of Jiva, you can understand the essence of Brahman. Vastu Advityam, they are not different, one from one another. Then, therefore, he gives this explanation. Suppose someone who has been kept prisoner in his house since birth wants to know what the sun is. Sun, Surya. Someone shows him the sun's rays happening to come through the small holes in the closet window shutters and tells him, "That's the sun." Behind this answer lies this instruction. From these small portions of light, which are one in substance with their source, the sun, you should be able to form some idea of the great fiery sphere of the sun. In the same way, the jiva is a portion of the Supreme by virtue of the Supreme's inconceivable spiritual potencies. This we will prove later in the Paramatma-sandarbha. Paramatma-sandarbha deals with what is the matter, then what is the jivas, kshatrajna shakti, and what is spiritual energy, like who is Paramatma, how he interacts with all his different energies, how he like helps them to exist, and so on. So that's the Paramatma-sandarbha, which is most complicated out of all 6 sandarbhas. It's much more, it's because it's achintya, how Krishna is completely transcendental, but how still he interacts with all his different energies, comes in contact with them without coming in contact. See, that's the very complicated. And then Jiva Goswami tells, in places the Upanishads teach that the Supreme has parts in terms of its being qualified by the jivas and other kinds of Shruti statements that say that Supreme has no parts deal with Kevala, the exclusive oneness of the Supreme. Like it is said that sometimes Shruti says that there are some parts of the Supreme Lord. And this is the verse from Shatara Upanishad 4.10. It's been quoted in the commentary to this verse. Mayam tu prakritim vidyan mainam tu maheshwaram tatsya vayava bhutaistu vyaptam sarvam edam jagat. Maya, please understand, is material nature, and the magician who possesses Maya is the Supreme Lord. The souls who are parts and parcel of him fill this entire created world. So tasya avayava, ayava bhuta, like his parts are jivas. Therefore, when it's spoken that he has part, it means that we have Brahman, Supreme Lord, and his parts are jivas, his spiritual sparks. Mamavam Shah Jivalika Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Krishna speaks about that in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. But when we speak about him without parts, he is known as Kevala. And then Jiva Goswami, he speaks in the 4th line, he says, Atra Kavelyaika Prayojanam iti Chaturthapa Dash Cha Kaivalya Padasya Shudhatva Matra Vachanatvena Shudhatva Syacha Shudha Bhaktitvena Paryavasanena Priti Sandarbhya Vyakyasyate. He says that in the 4th line of Bhagavatam, that the goal of this literature is exclusive oneness, Kaivalya Eka Prayojana. The word oneness, Kaivalya, refers simply to pureness. Kevala means without anything, anything else. Like we can tell, like Kevala Jala, pure water, not kind of drink, like, or some tea. It's just Kevala Jala. In the same way, when we speak about the Kaivalya in Sanskrit, means the state of purity, that nothing is there. Just one substance. And that's why Jiva Goswami, he says that this purity, what is the purity? As we will explain later in the Priti Sandarbha, this state of pureness is ultimately pure bhakti. Why it's pure? Because Kavalyaka Prayojana means that your goals, your prayojana, your desires are one with Krishna. You remain separate from him, but you live Krishna's happiness. Sukham parama purusha matra eva svasukhatvam. This is the definition of happiness in Tattva-sandarbha. Jiva Goswami tells that the happiness on the part of bhakti is that you live by the happiness of Krishna. Matra eva svasukhatvam. Only by Krishna's happiness and nothing else. If Krishna is happy, you are happy. If Krishna is not happy, you are not happy. So, and that means the complete you are completely united with Krishna by love, and that's the actual oneness, which Upanishads say. And then Jiva Goswami, he will explain it in more details in the Tattva-sandarbha. So basically, what this verse, the actual reading, understanding of this verse, that yes, in Srimad Bhagavatam we see the essence of all Vedanta, that Janmadhyasya is the source of everything, maintaining everything, that Adhato Brahma Jignasa, that he can be known by bhakti, and then the goal of this bhakti is prema bhakti, which is the highest happiness you can achieve. And that's the third verse of Chaturshloki Srimad Bhagavatam. Yatha mahanti bhutani acheshu chavasheshvanu pravishtani paravishtani tat hateshu nateshvaham. Basically, this verse speaks about prema, the full unity with Krishna by the bhakti. And we see in the case of the cover boys, when in this situation when Krishna sent them to Mathura Brahmanas who were doing this yajna, and then Krishna asked them to ask some food for him and Balarama, actually for Balarama only, because he knew that those Brahmanas, they are too external, they don't understand the essence of all the scriptures and all these rituals in the Vedas. And it is said that when those boys, they came to the site of the yajna, they saw that so many pots are there with rice, dal, sabji, sweet rice, pakora, kachori, puris, chapati, so many wonderful, wonderful things. And then they started smelling them, and then they had some saliva. And actually, Acharya explained that it was not the boys' saliva, it was Krishna saliva. You see? Because their senses were one with Krishna. Spiritual senses became actually one with Krishna senses. Krishna was experiencing reality through their senses. Why? Because they were completely united with Krishna by love. Wow! So that's the highest goal of pure devotional service. And Jiva Goswami, he says, because of that, because when one is pure devotee, like Vastvadvityam tan nishtha, if you analyze the quality of the soul in its pure state, then you can understand the quality of Supreme Lord. You see? And it doesn't mean that when we have, in our conditioned state, when we have saliva, when you want to eat something very nice, that this is Krishna's saliva actually. No, not like that. First you have to become pure devotee, then it will be true. Okay? Is it understood? Is it clear, more or less? Just a verse which is unusual verse because it appears at the very end of Srimad Bhagavatam, and someone can interpret it in a wrong way. So that's why Jiva Goswami. Yes, please.
I was wondering if this Kaivalya that's indicated in 12.13.12 could also indicate Kevala Prem rather than Mahatmya Gyan Prema as the ultimate goal.
Jiva Goswami, he will speak about that in Tattva-sandarbha, okay, in different ways. Yes, definitely. Brajavasi, they become completely one with Krishna. They live his happiness. They just want to please him. That's the exclusive love of Brajavasi. Aho bhagyam nanda gopa vrajokasam yamitram paramananda brahma purna brahma sanatanam. That because of their love, Krishna becomes their mitra, friend, or son, and so on. So many verses are there in the 10th canto, where Shukadeva Goswami, he with great wonder says, wow, because he knows who Krishna is. But then Krishna becomes like a toy in the hands of Brajavasis. He becomes completely subordinate to their love. That's yes, that's the greatness of the Brijabhasi love. Yeah, right. Okay. And then, so Jiva Goswami, he started in this 52nd Anusheda the microcosmos of Vachavachikata Sambandha. How Srimad Bhagavatam teaches, explains the absolute truth through the means of understanding Jiva. If you, like he speaks about the nature of Jiva, and by that you can understand the nature of the Supreme Lord. That's one of the methodology which Bhagavatam uses to help us understand what Tattva is. And then 53rd, 54th and 55th Anusheda, three Anusheda, they continue the same line of thought. He quotes few verses from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is spoken about the nature of the living entity. Then, just by speaking about the nature of the living entity, Jiva Goswami, he explains that Supreme Brahman has the same qualities. He also shows this analogy. And then he shows also how Srimad Bhagavatam is the Akritrima Bhashya, or the author's commentary on Vedanta Sutras. Just I will read a few verses. Tatra yadi tvam padarthasya jivatmano jnana tvam nitya tvam cha prathamato vichara gochara syat. If one first considers the entity you, like Tattva-masi, you are that. That is the Jiva soul, to be conscious and internal. Then he says, Tadaiva tat padarthasya tadrishat tvam subodham syat. Then one can then easily understand the entity that, the Supreme, to be similar in nature. And then he says, Iti tadbodhaitum anyarthascha paramarshaha iti nyayena jivatmanas tatrupatvam aha. He quotes the verse from Vedanta Sutra. It's the Vedanta Sutra 1.3.20. Very, very famous verse, which says that to inform us of this idea, the Bhagavatam states that the Jiva soul partakes of the Supreme's qualities. Thus, the Bhagavatam follows the logic found in the Vedanta Sutras. This consideration is for the sake of understanding the Other, the Supreme. And just to explain what is there, it's the Goparanatha Prabhu explains. The Vedanta Sutras point out this strategy in the aphorism Anyadhascha Paramarshaha 1.3.20. According to Srila Baladev Vidapushana, this aphorism refers to the well-known Dahara Vidya, or meditation on the subtle space, found in the Chandogya Upanishad 8.1.1. Yat asmin brahmapure daharam pundarikam vyeshma daharosmin antarakashas tasmin yat antastat anveshtavyam. In the city of Brahman is a subtle residence in the form of a lotus. Within this residence is a subtle sky. You should find out what is within that subtle sky. And then the explanation of the sutra. The city of Brahman, Brahmapura, is the body of the meditator. The lotus-shaped residence in that Brahmapura is the heart. Within that residence is the super soul, who is metaphorically called Akasha, or the internal sky that accommodates everything in the universe. This sky within the lotus of the heart is the same Supreme Lord, who with his all-pervading energies creates and maintains the entire universe. And yet he enters this small, most subtle residence to accompany the living being as long as the living being stays in the material world. Within that subtle sky, the Supreme Lord, a super soul, like inside that Antarakasha, there are countless transcendental qualities to be discovered. Anvishtavya, the qualities of Krishna. He is the super soul, and he is the, and then it is said, commenting on this passage, the Vedanta Sutras resolve doubt to why an account of the Jiva's liberation is found in the middle of meditation of on the super soul. Okay, so this is the Dahara Vidya. Upanishads they speak about the absolute truth in a very, very logical way, but also they give a kind of meditation. And there are about 40 Vidyas in the Upanishads, very, very famous Vidyas, like Parama Purusha Vidya is one of the Vidyas, Dva Suparna Suyuja Sakaya Parama Paramid, actually it's called different, like two birds, like two birds on the same branch of the tree, soul and super soul. This one Vidya, and Vidya is kind of meditation by which you can understand some the nature of the absolute truth. So Vedanta Sutras, they are not just logic, some theory, something distracted from the reality. No, it's very practical. They give you meditations to perform, and there are 40 such meditations, and one of them is Dahara Vidya, that inside you there is internal sky, which is the supreme Brahman, and then you have to find what is inside the Brahman, not just Brahman, impersonal Brahman, but Supreme Lord along with his qualities. That's the very, very famous Dahara Vidya, and it's meditation on Brahman. But then, why? It's a part of Vedanta Sutra, like this whole, many sutras in this third chapter of the first part of the Vedanta Sutra, they speak about the meditation on super soul. But why an account of the Jiva's liberation is found in the middle of a meditation on the super soul? Anyatha paramarshaha, the consideration paramarsha of the Jiva soul is for the purpose of understanding the order, the supreme soul. The goal of the Jiva's own perfection is the Paramatma. Upon joining the Paramatma, the Jiva achieves his own true form and personality. So basically, it is said that while those verses, they say that you have to meditate on super soul, on Brahman, but then it is said that you have to meditate on the Jiva. Why? Jiva Goswami says that because Jiva and Brahman, Vastu, Advitya, they are non-different, and that's the logic of Vedanta Sutra. But then Srimad Bhagavatam also, as the commentary on Vedanta Sutra, he gives this verse, Bhagavatam 11:3-38. Natma jajannana marisheti naidhate sau nakshiyate savanavit vyabhicharinam hi sarvatra shashvat anapayu palabhimatram prano yathendriya balena vikalpitam sat. The soul was never born and will never die, nor does it grow or decay. It is actually the knower of the youth, middle age, and death of the material body. It can thus be understood to be pure consciousness, existing everywhere at all times and never destroyed, just as the life air within the body. Although one becomes like many in contact with the various material senses, the soul appears to assume various material designations in contact with its material bodies. And then Jiva Goswami, he gives very, I won't go into it because it will take a lot of time, but basically what he says that he gives different arguments to help us understand that the Jiva is different from matter. It's completely spiritual, it's transcendental, in the same way as Brahman is also different from matter. He says that the soul or pure Jiva is never born and because he has no birth, he is not subjected to the next stage of transformation, persistence. The soul also does not grow, and because he does not undergo bodily development, the notion that he creates byproducts is also denied. Here the word he indeed means because. The phrase of those things unsteady means the appearance and disappearance of the bodies of a child, a young man, and so on, or else bodies in the form of demigod, a human, and so on. Knower of phases of time means witness of past, present, and future. The meaning here is that a witness of various material conditions is not himself under those conditions. Then, what is the unconditioned soul? The answer is that he is nothing but perception, or in other words, an embodiment of pure consciousness. How is he present? He is everywhere in the body and always going with it. And then so basically he says that the soul witnesses, like as we said that we are consciousness and we also possess consciousness, and with our consciousness we can see, we can witness, like the transformation of the body. Like I myself, like in the very childhood, I was a small child. Now I am a grown-up man. Then I will become the elderly man, like this. So, but as the soul, we can witness it. We can see it from the distance, like that I'm not the body. I'm just witnessing the transformations of the body. But basically, that I see because I put my consciousness into matter. But actually, I'm different from matter. I'm spiritual soul. And Jiva Goswami then sees. But we see consciousness of something like blue fading and consciousness of something yellow rising in its place. Does this mean that consciousness is impermanent? Okay, yes, we are consciousness. And then we see that it becomes colored, like in material conditioned life. It becomes colored by the modes of tamaguna, rajaguna, sattvaguna, and so on. Does it mean that consciousness changes? Jiva Goswami says no. By the power of the senses. Consciousness is one and persistent. But by the power of the senses, it seems many. The transformation of consciousness into forms of blueness and so on come and go. But consciousness itself does not. The distinction between that which comes and goes and the point from which it comes or to which it goes supplies the first argument for the transcendental nature of the soul. The second argument proceeds from the distinction between the seer and the seen. An analogy to the soul's remaining steady amongst unsteady things is found in the verse beginning, just as the live air. Okay, so I remember when we studied Tattva-sandarbha in our school, when we came to this verse, it was like a shock. Wow, how to understand it? It was so difficult because it's very, very complicated. It's not easy to put everything together. So in this way, but basically, what Jiva Goswami wants to establish that we are different from the body, and if we actually understand that we are different from the body, then we can understand ourselves, a spiritual soul, and by understanding ourselves, we can understand also the Supreme Brahman. Because Vastu Advitya, we are not different in substance with the Brahman. And then Jiva Goswami in the 54th Anusheda, he gives one more verse, the second verse from Shrimad Bhagavatam, 11.3.39. Drishtantam vivrin van indriya jalayenna nirvika karatma mopalabdham bhim darsheti. Expanding this analogy, the next verse, which analogy? Like a live air, like it pervades the body, but still it's not the body. It's different from the body. The next verse, 11.3.39, teaches how to perceive the changeless soul when the senses, mind, and false ego dissolve. Okay, Not like just in the material world, like you take one food and it comes into your stomach and then your body changes. But Jiva Goswami tells that there are radical changes in the consciousness of the living entities, different states of consciousness. But still the consciousness itself becomes the same. It's not changes. And this is the verse from Shrimad Bhagavatam. Andeshu pi shishu tarishva avinchiteshu pranohi jivam upalabdhvati tatra tatra stane yatindriya gane hamidcha prasupte kutasthad ashayam rite tattanu smritirnah. The spiritual soul is born in many different species of life within the material world. Some species are born from eggs, others from embryos, others from the seeds of plants and trees, and others from perspiration. But in all species of life, the prana, or vital air, remains unchanging and follows the spirit soul from one body to another. Similarly, the spirit soul is essentially the same despite its material condition. We have practical experience of this. When we are absorbed in deep sleep without dreaming, the material senses becomes inactive, and even the mind and false ego are merged into a normal condition. But although the senses, mind, and false ego are inactive, one remembers upon waking that he, the soul, was peacefully sleeping. Okay, so just the essence of this verse is that there are different states of consciousness. It's called Jagrata, Swapna, and Sushupti. In the Jagrata, your senses and your mind and false ego, all three of them are active. Then in the dreaming state, Swapna, it means that the sun, when you see dreams, then your senses are inactive, but mind is still active. So that's the also state of consciousness. And what happens in your dreams, like while you sleep with dreams, it's also reality. Karma can go away. You can get some revelations and so on during the dreams, because mind is active. And mind can perceive something. But then, what is Sushupti? Sushupti is the state of consciousness when a living entity is completely, it doesn't have any connection basically with the material world, because false ego temporarily dissolves. Like your senses, mind, and false ego, they dissolve. And Upanishad says, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 4.3.21, Pragyanenatmana sampratishvaktana bhahyam kinchana vedanantaram. Embraced by the omniscient super soul, he has no knowledge of anything, external or internal. So basically, when you enter into Sushupti, it's kind of impersonal liberation. You are embraced by the Supreme Brahman. You become one with Brahman. And then, when you come back to from the sleep, you remember, okay, I was peacefully sleeping. So, what remembrance is there? No mind, no senses, no false ego. Who remembers? The consciousness remembers. And that's why Jiva Goswami says that Jiva is different from senses, from prana, from the mind, from the false ego. Is completely spiritual. He gives this. That's why Jiva Goswami brings this verse from Shrimad Bhagavatam. That when you come back from the Sushupti, the most deep state of consciousness, when you are completely removed from all material designations. False ego dissolves, you can imagine, for some time. But because we have, as the soul, we have desire to enjoy this material world. That's why when the Sushupti finishes, you again come into consciousness. You enter into different states of consciousness, like Swapna, the sun with dreams, or the Jagrata, the waking state of consciousness. Why? Because desires are there. Desires are the function of the soul. So that's why Jiva Goswami, he wants to establish that this like consciousness of the living entities is unchanging. It's different from matter. And even though it becomes conditioned, but it doesn't mean that this condition changes the spiritual consciousness. It's kind of some addition, some kind of like we take on some cloth, but it doesn't mean that it changes us as we are. So in the same way, consciousness stays unchanging, and consciousness is the quality of the soul. And as we said, that it's up to us where to focus our consciousness, either on Krishna or the material world. If you focus it in the material world, it becomes conditioned by the material world. But if you focus into Krishna, you can transcend the material reality. As Шримад Бхагаватам says in the first canto, 11th chapter, Tat Ishna Vishasya Prakriti Sthopi Tat Gunar Nayujjate Sadat Masthar Tato Buddhis Tadashreha. That's the greatness of the Supreme Lord, even though he is in the middle of three modes of material nature. Tat Gunar Nayujjate. He is not coming in contact with those gunas. And Tato Buddhis Tadashrayah. The same applies to those who completely dedicated their consciousness, their buddhi, to the service to Krishna. Mam chayovi picharina bhakti-yogina sevata sagunam samatiti tan brahmabhuya kalpate. As we said in the very beginning, that such person can come above the influence of time. He can come to the spiritual state of consciousness. But how? By directing our consciousness to the service to Krishna. You see? And that's the Jiva Goswami by that is trying to see that Srimad Bhagavatam shows that methodology. If you understand yourself, you'll be able to understand Supreme Lord as qualitatively one with you. Okay? And then in the 55th Anusheda he summarizes. Aduktam Anvaya Vitirekabhyas Tarkasya Chaturatmakaha Agamapayita Tattavadhi Bhedana Prathamo Mataha Drashtridrishya Vibhagyana Dvitiyopi Matastatha Sakshya Vibhagyana Trityah Samatah Satam Dukhi Prema Spadatvena Chaturthah Sukhabodhakaha. In summary, there are four arguments showing the difference between matter and spirit, using the logic of positive and negative comparison. Okay. The first proceeds from the distinction between what comes and goes, temporary, and what is ultimate ground of both coming and going. The second proceeds from the distinction between the seer and the seen. The third proceeds from the distinction between the witness and the witnessed, according to the opinion of saintly authorities. And the fourth, which reawakens one to true happiness, proceeds from the distinction between being unhappy and being a reservoir of ecstatic love. So basically, that's what we say, that if we direct our consciousness into Krishna, then we'll become happy. Rasa Vaisahara Samkhya Vyam Labhva Anandi Bhavati. Upanishad says that Krishna is the embodiment of all the rasas, and Rasamkhya Vyam Labhva Anandi Bhavati. And if we direct our consciousness, our love to Him, we also become blissful. And then when we direct our consciousness to the material world, we'll become unhappy, which means that we will continue our sufferings here in this world. So that's the logic which is there in the first methodology of Srimad Bhagavatam, that by understanding ourselves, we can understand the Supreme Lord. First methodology, Vachakata Sambandha. I'm very sorry that it's maybe too short, because like I feel that we need some more explanations. And please read the commentaries of Gopinath Prabhu at home. He will give more details to the verses Jiva Goswami he says there. I'll just give the message Jiva Goswami wants to give to us. Okay? Because we have very short time, unfortunately. And then the next part of the Vachivachika Sambandha, next methodology Jiva Goswami uses, is the microcosmos, that we can understand Supreme Lord by analyzing the energies of the universe. Okay? And then he says, thus the essential, this is the 56th Anucheda, page 210. Thus the essential identity of the jivas who are constituted as described above is purely spiritual. The tattva, the absolute truth, has been described as being non-different from the jivas because it shares with them the same spiritual constitution and is the whole of which they are integral parts. This is the way of describing the tattva in terms of vyashti, the individual beings. This tattva, called the shelter, ashraya, can also be defined in another way, in terms of samashti, the totality of existence. This involves using the concepts such as primary creation that define a work as a major Purana, as in the following two verses. So, and then Jiva Goswami, he quotes verses from the second canto, 2:10, 1 and first and second verse, speaking about the 10 topics of Shrimad Bhagavatam. And basically, those verses, I think you must know them already. Atra sargo visargascha sthanam poshanam uttayaha manvantare shanukadha nirodha muktir ashreha dashamasya vishuddhartham navanam ihalakshanam varnayanti mahatmanah shrutenarthena chanjasa. Sorry. Okay. The themes of this Bhagavatam are primary creation, sarga, secondary creation, visarga, maintenance by the Supreme Lord, sthana, His special mercy, poshana, the jiva's desires, uti, reigns of manus, manvantara, narrations of the Lord's pastimes, ishanukatha, annihilation, nirodha, liberation, mukti, and the ultimate shelter, ashraya. To delimit the meaning of the 10 topic, great sages describe the qualities of the other 9 in this work. They do this both by direct statement and by implication. And then Jiva Goswami, he explains each and every topic. He quotes verses from the next verses from Shrimad Bhagavatam. He says that the basic idea of these verses is this: in this world, 10 topics are defined, beginning with sarga. The first 9 are defined through descriptions of their essential natures, as a means of purifying or clearing the way for correct understanding of the 10th. Namely the ashraya. One might complain, but I do not find that done in this work. The answer is that the speakers in the Bhagavatam, describe these topics not only literally, by direct descriptions given in their prayers and elsewhere, but also by implication, in the unspoken purport of various narrations. So Jiva Goswami says that Shrimad Bhagavatam speaks about those topics, and especially like sarga, how this material nature comes into being, like its creation by the Supreme Lord. Then visarga, the secondary variation by Lord Brahma, sthanam or sthiti vaikuntha vijaya. He's going to say that is the victory of the Lord of Vaikuntha. And actually Jiva Goswami, like, maybe I won't quote all those verses because it's kind of explanation, but Jiva Goswami, he says that Sthitir Vaikuntha Vijaya, I will summarize it, that Vaikuntha Vijaya means the victory of the Lord of Vaikuntha, which means that Krishna has some goal in creating this material world. We know this verse which is quoted also from the prayers of the personified Vedas, 10:87-2. Pranendri manomayam jananam asrajet vibhuh matrat hamcha bhavat hamcha atmano kalpanaya cha. That Krishna created this Budhendri Mano Pranan, Budhi, the intelligence, Indriyas, is
because it's already stand out in the
10:87-2. 10:87-2. Shrimad Bhagavatam. Okay? So, Budhi Indriya Mano Pranan Jananam Asanjan Vibhu. Krishna created it. Why for? What for? Matrat Hamcha, in order to fulfill desires of the living entities who wants to enjoy this material world. Bhavat Hamcha, also to help them elevate their consciousness to come to the higher status of higher bodies or higher planets of the material world. Then Atmanaya, to understand themselves as spiritual souls. And then Akalpanaya cha, and then the final liberation is to develop the relationship with Krishna. So basically Krishna creates this world, Sthanam, Sthiti, Vaikuntha Vijaya, in order to bring living entities back home to Godhead, to the spiritual world. And that's his Vijaya, that's his victory. And then in the realm of Vijaya, like as the part of his plan, he has Sarga. He creates this material energy, he manifests it. Then Visarga, within this material realm, he creates different universes, different planets, different bodies of the living entities, so that they could fulfill their desires. Then Sthana means the universal order, in which there are some rules, some laws of God, which are written in the Vedas, to help living entities fulfill their desires and gradually elevate themselves. Then Poshanam, Jiva Goswami says that also as the part of the overall plan of liberating living entities is the special love or special attention, special dealing Krishna with his devotees. Poshanam Tatanugrahat. That when somebody makes steps to Krishna, to serve him, Krishna deals with such a devotee in a special way. It's like a kind of karmani nirdahati kintu chibhakti bhajam. Like Brahma Samhita says that есть Индрагопам, Адхавендрам, Ахосвакарма, Бандханурупам, Palabhajanam atapnoti. That from the Indragopa, very small insect, to the Lord Indra, everyone gets the result of their karma. But karmani nirdahati kintu bhakti bhajam. But Krishna burns completely the karma of those who are serving him. So there's the different dealing Krishna with his devotees. And then sthanam poshnam utteha. Utti means the creative impulse, the switch which switches Krishna from the mode of sthanam while dealing with living entities as the super soul, like a judge who just gives the punishment or reward to those who are living in this world according to the laws of Krishna, or disobeying the laws of Krishna. So this is the sthanam, general relationship of Krishna with all the living entities. And then poshanam means special mercy. And Uti, in the 7th canto, Vishnu Chakravarti, he explains that Uti means Mahat Anugraha or Mahat Aparadha. If you serve Mahat, if you get mercy of Mahat, great souls, great Vaishnavas, then by that mercy you'll be able to to switch yourself to serve Krishna. Bhakti arises in your heart. And yet hamam prapatente tam sataya bhajamaham. If Krishna sees bhakti in your heart, he starts dealing with you on the level of portion. But then if you offend great devotees, then Bhakti Devi Aparadha means that that which destroys the bhakti or blocks bhakti. And then because of that Krishna will have to deal with you on the level of sthanam again. Like Jai Vijaya, they committed offense to 4 Kumaras, and because of that they had to take birth in this material world as 3 times as Ravana, as Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Ravana, Shishupala, and Dantavakra, Shishupala Dantavakra. So that's the result of offense. So Uti means that is one of the switches which can switch you to Krishna, either to serve him or envy him, or Krishna in relationship with you, either to give you special mercy or deal with you as with everybody else. That's the Uti. Then Manvantarani Saddharma. It is said that Manvantara is the activities of great Manu, great devotees, who are so dear to Krishna that Krishna personally helps them in ruling the universe, great kings and so on. Saddharma. Saddharma means, you know that Manu Samhita or Manu Smriti, the rules of Manu, where he says how living entities should live in this material world. So Manvantarani Saddharma. Then Nirodha Muktir Ashreha. Nirodha means the dissolution of everything, Mukti, liberation, and Ashreya, that's the 10th topic. And first 9 topics, they help you understand the 10th topic, Ashraya. And then Jiva Goswami, he speaks about very, very important things. Is the 58th Anushkeda. Abhashascha nirodhascha yatoscha abhyavasiyate sa ashraya param brahma paramatmeti shabhyate. The source for the maintenance and annihilation of the cosmos and the cause by which these are perceived is the supreme fountainhead, the absolute truth, known as Brahman and Paramatma. And then he says, the word visible manifestation, abhasa, means the sending forth of material creation, and annihilation, nirodha, means the winding up, the entity from whom these processes arise and by whom they are made perceivable to the jiva's senses is the ashraya, well known as Brahma and Paramatma. Here the word thus, iti, carries the sense of futures, and this implies the idea of the personality of Godhead, Bhagavan also. That we intend to fully explain later. Where later? In the Bhagavata-sandarbha. Okay? And then Jiva Goswami, he quotes second 2 verses, 2:10 and 8-9. Very, very important verses. When he tries to see what is the nature of this ashraya. Is it part of this material world? Maybe it's jiva, maybe it's universe, maybe it's nature, maybe it's demigods and so on. So he gives it. And to give within the process of maintenance a clear indication of the identity of the shelter, ashraya, the divisions of adhyatma and so on are described in the final 2 of the 7 verses. This is done through meditation on manifestly visible phenomena involving again the individual living beings, vyashti. So he says that in order to analyze who is the ultimate shelter, maybe it's jiva, because vastva advityam, jiva is not different from Brahman. Maybe like we said, ekajiva vada, the only jiva which is the source of everything, source of illusion, and when this jiva becomes liberated, the one jiva, everyone will become liberated. or maybe matter is also like Sankhya philosophy. They say that the matter is the source of everything. So Jiva Goswami therefore quotes those two verses. Yo dhyatmiko yam purushah so yo sau eva thidai vikaha tatra bhaya vichedah purusho yadhibhautikaha ekam ekatara bhave yada nopa labhamahe tritayam tatra yo veda sa atma svashraya shrayaham. This Adhyatmika Purusha is the same Jiva as the Adhidaivika Purusha. Adhidaivika means the demigods. And the source of for the distinction between these two is called the Adhibhautika Purusha. In the absence of any one of these, we do not perceive the other two. He who knows all three is the Supreme Soul, independent of all else. He is his own support and the true Ashraya. So he says, then this Adhyatmika person, the Jiva, who identifies himself as the owner of, for example, the visual sense, also assumes the role of the Adhidaivika Purusha. In this example, the demigod of the sun and other presiding deities of sight. Okay, so we have three Purushas, or three Ashrayas. First is Jiva, Adhyatmika Purusha. Then we have demigods, which is the Adhidaivika Purusha. And then we have the body, which is the Adhibhautika Purusha. And then demigods and Jivas, basically demigods is also Jiva. But we make distinction between Adhyatmika and Adhidaivika Purusha. Why? Because of the body. The body, Adhibhautika Purusha, is like Jivas, they want to see something, right? And that's why we have the eye, the sight organ, right? And then in order to for the eye to function, we need the support of the demigod of the sight, which is the sun. And this is very, very detailedly explained also in the second canto, 10th chapter, how it goes. Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika, and Adhidaivika Purushas. In all the senses, all the sense organ, the detail of the sense. So in this way, it's a full picture of how our ability to function in this material world is arranged by the Supreme Lord. So we have ourselves who wants to see, and then we have demigod, who is controlling our body. So that's why, because we and demigods differently dealing with the body, that's why there is difference between demigods and the and living entities. And that's Jiva Goswami says, thus the two remain indistinguishably Jivas and not more. Later the Adhibhautika person appears, by whom the two other persons become divided into separate identities, the claimant proprietor of the sense and the presiding deity of the sense. This Adhibhautika person is the visible body, represented by the eyeball and the other physical sense organs. He is regarded as a person in that he is an upadhi of the Jiva, as stated in the Shruti text. This Sava Esha Purusho Narasamayaha. This person is made of food and body fluids. So, because Jivas, by false ego, identify them with the body, their consciousness also, how to say, spiritualizes this body, or makes it living. It looks like that body is living, but actually it's dead. But therefore Jiva Goswami says that why body, the dead body, is called Adhibhautika Purusha. Purusha means the living entity, because Jivas, they penetrate it with their consciousness by the false ego, desire to enjoy. See? And then in the 60th Anuच्छeda, Jiva Goswami explains the words in the absence of any one of these indicate that there are a number of ashrayas, each dependent of one another. Thus, for example, without just a second. Without a visible object, the sense whose existence is inferred by its perception of that object is not manifested, nor is the seer. So, the sense, it appears, why? Because we need to see something, the object of the senses. That's why the sense appears. So it means that Adhibhautika Purusha, it's not independent. Like the eyeball or the organ of seeing, the sense of seeing, it appears because we have objects. So it depends of one another. Then, and without the sense and the seer, there is no presiding deity. So, like, we want to see something, and because of that, we need the body, the ball, the seeing organ, the organ of sight, the eyeball. That's why it appears. If we wouldn't be there, no need of these eyeballs. They are useless. They have some use only because there are persons who wants to see something. And then also a person wants to see something because there is matter. This is the Adhibhautika Purusha. It depends of the seer, the living entity, and also its existence, like its functioning, depends of the demigods. Then Jiva Goswami says that, and without the sense and the seer, there is no presiding deity, such as the sun god, to be known by inference from the activity of the sense. So if there is no somebody who wants to see, and if there is no the sense organ, what is the use of the demigod? He's just because he's in charge of controlling the eyeball, so that we could see it, or the sight of the living entities. That's his job. If nobody is there, if no eyes and so is there, what is the use of the existence of the demigod? Moreover, Jiva Goswami says, without the presiding deity, the sense that does not function, and without the functioning of that sense, nothing becomes an object of sight. In this way, in the absence of any one of these, we do not perceive the others. Jiva Goswami, he explains this verse that ekam ekatara bhave yada noppala bhamahe, that if even one of these three is absent, the second two won't be able to exist. So they are called, then he says, but in that situation of mutual dependence, he who sees all three by direct visual perception, who knows them as their constant witness, is the supersoul, their ashraya. It is understood that each of the three is the ashraya of the others. And so, to distinction the supersoul, he is qualified as the svashraya ashraya, the ashraya who is his own ashraya, who has no other ashraya. He is also the ashraya of all the others. The ashraya is called atma to acknowledge the partial non-difference of the pure jiva and supersoul as part and whole. Okay, it's not the living entity, because it's Adhyatmika Purusha. It's not the matter, because it's Adhibhautika Purusha. It's not any of the demigods, because they are Adhidhavika Purusha, and they depend of each other. So there must be some fourth ashraya, which is the independent of the three of them, and which is the shelter of all three of them. And when it is said that it's Atma, it means that it's Paramatma. Paramatma, which is Vastu Advitya, is not different from the Supreme Lord, like in quality. And then he says, undoubtedly the pure Jiva who is called witness is an Ashaya. Thus we know from the statements such as this, although transcendental, he considers himself a material product. Paroppi manuten ardham is from the 175, same as we explained in the vision of the Srila Vyasadeva. And then verse from Bhagavatam, even 13:27. Jagat svapna sushuptam cha gunato buddhi vrittayaha tasam vilakshano jivah sakshitvena vinishchitaha. Wakeful awareness, dreaming and deep sleep, all caused by the modes of material nature, are functions of the mind. The individual soul has been ascertained to be distinct from these functions, for he is their witness. So, as we see Jiva Goswami, he connects this last anucheda, last ashaya, like this microcosmos, with what was before, the vision of Srila Vyasadeva and the verses which spoke about the different states of consciousness, Jagata, Svapna, Sushupti, and so on. He says that because somehow we might misunderstand that can be Jiva also, as the supreme shelter of everyone. He says, no, that should be only Supreme Lord. And then he says, alternative proposal concerning who is the Ashraya is that the three persons, Adhyatmika and so on, are all Ashrayas. All of them at the same time. Maybe they are both three Ashrayas, like Ashraya Trayi. Yet this is true. Yet this is true. But because the three are mutual Ashrayas of one another, none of them is the exclusive Ashraya. These three are not what is denoted by the primary meaning of the word Ashraya indicated in the verse beginning in the absence of any one of these. And then he says, but then let the witnessing self be the Ashraya. So all three of them doesn't work. Okay, the Atma, the soul, let it be the Ashraya. This proposal is responding to in the words, he who knows all three is the Supreme Lord. Independent of all else, he is his own support and the true Ashraya. Like one who is witness of all of three. Which three? Before that it was already said that one of them is Atma, Adhyatmika. So he is the distinct from the Atma, which is one of the three Ashrayas. The witnessing self is the Jiva, but the Super Soul, who as his own Ashraya has no other Ashraya, is the Ashraya of the Jiva. Such is the difference between the Jiva and the Super Soul. I stated in the Hamsa Guhya prayer, Sarvam Puman Vedda Gunam Shatadagnya Naveda Sarvagyam Anantam Ide. A person who knows everything, Sarvagья, about the modes of nature, but still not know the all-knowing, unlimited Lord whom I worship. Still he might not know him. Therefore the only true Ashraya is the Super Soul, who is described in the verse beginning Abhasascha, that from which the visible cosmic manifestation. So that's the explanation Jiva Goswami gives, that the Ashraya, the Supreme Lord, the Tattva, which we want to discern and which is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, is Vastavam Vedyam Vastavam Vastu, is the essence of everything, is the Tattva, Advaya Tattva, Supreme Lord along with his energies, which are his part and which are dependent on him. Neither Jiva nor matter nor demigods, they are independent. He is their Ashraya, their shelter. This is the 60th Anucheta, and then the because this is the list of 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is given in the second canto, Jiva Goswami, then in the 61st, 62nd, and 63rd Anusheda, he just gives the another list of 10 topics, which is from the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll just read these verses and then maybe finish, because Jiva Goswami, he makes a correlation between the list of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam with the list in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is 12th canto, 7 chapter, verses 9 and 10. Sargosya tha visargascha vritti rakshantaranicha Vamsho vamshanucharitam samstha hirtur apashayaha dashabhir lakshanar yuktam puranam tat vido viduhu kichit pancha vidham brahman mahat alpa vyavasthayam. O Brahmana, authorities on the matter understand a Purana to contain 10 characteristic topics: the creation of the universe, the subsequent creation of worlds and beings, the maintenance of all living beings, their substance, the periods, manvantarani, the dynasties of great kings, vamshanucharita, the activities of such kings, annihilation, motivation, and the supreme shelter. Other scholars state that the major Puranas deal with these 10 topics, whereas lesser Puranas may deal with 5. And then he explains what is there, like different things. Panchavidham, 5 main topics of every Purana must have 5 topics. But major Puranas, like main Puranas, they have 10 topics. And then he says, Panchavidham, what are the 5 topics each Purana has to have? Sargascha pratisargascha vamsho manvantaranicha vamshanu charitam cheti puranam panchalakshanam. The 5 defining characteristics of a Purana are creation, annihilation, the history of dynasties, Vamsha, then the reigns of Manu, Manvantarani, and the activities of members of the dynasties. And then he says that this difference of opinion derives from the distinction between a Mahapurana and the lesser Puranas, the former being more important than the latter. Thus, in different contexts, it is fitting to define a Purana differently. And then he says very important things, that although the Vishnu Purana and some other Puranas also include all 10 topics, and somebody may say, okay, they are major Puranas. Actually, these Puranas are lesser, because they give prominence only to the 5 basic topics. The Bhagavatam, in its 12 cantos, does not intend to set forth the 10 topics separately, canto by canto. So Jiva Goswami says that unlike the other Puranas, which also might describe 10 topics, but actually only in Srimad Bhagavatam, those 10 topics are explained in full, because in other Puranas they are there, but basically they speak mostly about 5 topics, not 10 topics as Srimad Bhagavatam do it. And then Jiva Goswami he asks the question: the Bhagavatam in its 12th canto does not intend to set forth the 10 topics separately, canto by canto, nor should we suppose that these topics mentioned in the 2nd canto are included in sequence in the cantos beginning with the 3rd. Apart from the last few topics, starting with annihilation in the 10th canto and later, and a topic concerning the reign of Manu in the 8th, the topics defined cannot be assigned to certain cantos. Okay, so this is the opinion of Srila Jiva Goswami. We know in Srimad Bhagavatam, like Shriprabhupada, he named it, 1st canto, creation, and so on. And he follows what Shridhara Swami says. Shridhara Swami and Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, they divide, they name Srimad Bhagavatam they say that first two cantos, they are kind of introduction, and then starting from the third canto is the Sarga, creation, then fourth canto is Visarga, secondary creation, then fifth canto is Sthanam, then and so on, like this. Sixth canto is Poshanam, special mercy. Seventh canto is Uti, eighth canto is Manvantara, ninth canto is the Nirodha, then 10th canto is the Ashraya, and then 11th, 12th canto also. So basically they divide cantos, like first two cantos introduction, and then 10 cantos from 3rd to 12th, 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. And to some extent it's possible to assign, because if you take, for example, the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we see the story of Ajamila, who's got special mercy of Krishna, although he was supposed to be punished by Yamadutas, or Vritrasura, Chitraketu Maharaj. It's definitely cases of special mercy. Then 7th canto is Uti. We see the Prahlada Maharaj, who has got mercy of so many saintly persons, and because of that he became a great devotee, and because of that he was protected by Krishna personally. And then we see Hiranyakashipu, who was the offender of great Vaishnavas, the 4 Kumaras, and because of that he was punished by Krishna. Although he was a devotee, he apparently he lost his level of devotional service. He degraded himself to the demon's body. So to some extent, and 10th canto also we say that this is the Ashraya, this is the Krishna, the Supreme Lord, Krishna as he is. That can be said. And Jiva Goswami, he says that we can assign some cantos, like in some cantos we speak more about one topic, but actually it's not proper to fully assign one canto to one topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. You see? And then he says also very important things that Shutena Arthena Chanchasa in the 2nd canto. 2.10.2. Shutena Arthena Anchasa. Shutena, by some prayers of the different devotees who pray about Krishna. And in this prayer you might see, for example, Sarga, Visarga, like all those 10 topics can be there. Then Arthena, by the stories, different stories, like where also we can see all 10 topics. And Anchasa, direct descriptions of Krishna. Each and every topic can be described like in the direct way. So those are three ways Srimad Bhagavatam explain 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so this is the 64th first Anusheda, and then in the 62nd Anusheda he again speaks about the different qualities of the, like he takes the verses which are in the second list of 10 topics from the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He gives them explanation. What is Sarga, what is Visarga, and so on, so on. I won't go into details because it's kind of the repetition from what was already said before. Just one thing I will say about the 4 kinds of liberation, of distraction. It's the verse 12:7-17. Naimittikah prakritiko nitya tyantiko layaha samshteti kavibhih proktash chaturdasya svabhavataha. There are four types of cosmic annihilation: occasional, elemental, continuous, and ultimate, all brought into effect by the inherent potency of the Supreme Lord. Learned scholars have called this topic dissolution, and it's naimittika. Naimittika means like prakritika is the total dissolution of all the matters of the matter. Is at the end of the life of Lord Brahma, when Krishna inhales all the universes inside himself, and matter that is not existent. Then Naimitika is the partial annihilation, when like at the end of the day of Lord Brahma, when comes his night. So in this way, everything which is there inside the universe goes into the body of Varpatakashaya Vishnu. And then at the end of each and every Manvantara, also some dissolution is going on. And Jiva Goswami, he in the Sarva Samadhi, into this 61st verse, he says that not only at the end of Manvantaras, but sometimes also some dissolution is going on in the universe. Like is kind of exception. He gives a few instances how it happened. Quotation from the Brahma Vivarta Purana. And then Nitya. Nitya means the constant dissolution by the influence of time. Every day, every second, every minute, your body destroys. So, and then Atyantiki, the final liberation. Atyantiki means the liberation from the false ego, from the false identities. Like in the list of the second canto, it is said, Muktim hitva nidharupam svarupen vivasitihi. That what is mukti is that you give up all false identities on himself, and svarupen vivasitihi. You establishes yourself in your svarupa, in your real identity. Jivere svarupahaya krishnera nityadasa. That's the final atyantiki, which means the final dissolution. After that, you will go back to Godhead, to the spiritual world. You will serve Krishna in his abode. So that's the different kinds of dissolution. And Jiva Goswami says also in at the very end of this Sandarbha that thus we have given a general indication of the Sambandha Jnana. So in two ways, Sambandha means Ishvara, Prakriti, Jiva, Kala and Karma. As we say that Supreme Lord, he interacts with the matter by the means of Kala, then Jivas and matter by the means of Karma, and Jiva and Ishvara by the means of Bhakti. Then Bhakti is the Abhideya, and the final. Why it's not part of Sambandha? Because it's already it's a spiritual activities on the spiritual level. It's a function of the Yogamaya, spiritual energy of the Lord. And then Prayojana is the Prema Bhakti, pure love of Godhead. So that's why the Atyantiki Mukti means that you liberate himself completely from the false ego. Even Nitya Mukti, when Kala destroys your body and so on, you will have to take birth again. But Atyantika Mukti means that you destroy completely all the causes of coming here in the material world. And the root cause is the avidya, which means the misunderstanding that to serve Krishna is bad, is not proper, and to be Krishna, to put yourself in the place of Krishna, is good. So it's the root cause of coming to this material world. And what does Krishna Katha? We started from that. While speaking about Krishna, we get the understanding of Krishna's qualities, how wonderful he is, about his love to his devotees. Devotees who speak Krishna Katha, they convey this desire to please Krishna, to serve, that bhakti which is there in their heart, the happiness they feel, they experience in relationship with Krishna. And that Krishna Katha goes into our ears, and it forces us, it helps us to distract our consciousness from the material activities and put it in the spiritual level to serve Krishna. And Jiva Goswami he brings in the Paramatma-sandarbha this verse from the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 2:37. I just wanted to finish this our course of Tattva-sandarbha by this wonderful verse, because Jiva Goswami he says that this is the first one is apurvata of Srimad Bhagavatam, is the uniqueness of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then this is the phala or fruit of studying Srimad Bhagavatam. As we said that Sandarbhas, especially Tattva-sandarbha, is the first of the 6 Sandarbhas, which are the topical study of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then it is said, Pibantiye 2:47, Pibantiye Bhagavata Atmana Satam Kathamritam Shravana Bhateshu Sampritam. If you hear the Krishna Katha, this Katha Amritam, the nectar of Krishna Katha, from the lips of those who are sat, genuine devotees, real Vaishnavas, who has some relationship with Krishna, some love to him, then Shrutyam Chate Vishya Vidushita Shayam. Then it purifies our consciousness. From what? From the desire. Vidushita Ashaya. Ashaya means desires. On the level of the soul, actually, this transformation is going on. Desire to enjoy this material world, to put our consciousness into matter, to put our shraddha or faith that if I enjoy this material world, I will be happy. So it helps you to distract it. And then prajanti tat charana sarvahantikam. It puts your consciousness into serving Krishna. And because of that, vrajanti, vraja means place where you walk a lot. Is the pasturing ground. So you will walk to the path going to Krishna, Vrajanti tat charana sarorohantikam, and finally you will come to the lotus of his lotus feet. As we said, this is the core of the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, is the sthanam. Sthanam means Vaikuntha Vijaya, which means that the victory of the Lord of Vaikuntha. By which way? By the way of Krishna Katha in the association of pure devotees, because that can purify you from all the contaminations, even Mayavada philosophy, even this misunderstanding, the desire to enjoy separately from Krishna. Krishna himself, he never intervenes to change desire or desires of the living entities, but he sends his pure devotees, who, by speaking about Krishna, create the desire, change the desire from in the heart of the living entities, from the desire to enjoy towards desire to serve Krishna. So that's the final goal of Srimad Bhagavatam, to actually make us desire to serve Krishna. And then Krishna says, Yet hamam prapadante tam sadhaiva bhajamaham. As one approaches me, I reward him accordingly. And also, nityo nityanam chitana shetananam eko bhohanam vividat hatsikamam. He is the one internal amongst many internals. And he is one chetana, the conscious among many conscious. And eko bhohanam vividat hatsikamam. And he is the one who, since time immemorial, fulfills the desires of the living entities. And basically the whole goal of Krishna Katha is to desire to serve Krishna. And when Krishna sees our desires, then he gives us pure love of Godhead. And bhakti actually is the cultivation of this pure desire. Anibilashita shunyam gyana karma janavritam kulena krishnanu shilanam bhakti uttama. I want to serve Krishna. I want to give everything to him. That's the goal of studying Shastras. And I'm very happy that you are studying Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the especially in Bhakti Vabhava, Bhakti Vedanta courses, because it's the actually it's such a wonderful book. And I hope that to some extent we could speak about the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam on our course on Shri Tattva-sandarbha. Okay, so that's the end. Maybe you have any questions, any doubts, or anything you wanted to add or speak to. We are over time, but we finished it at Tattva-sandarbha. We did it, actually. I was so much afraid.
Well done for getting through all the verses.
Yes.
Nice, very satisfying to complete the whole text.
I skipped a few explanations of Jiva Goswami, but you can read it in the book. You have a book, you can read it yourself. Okay. Okay. So now we can stop now. Thank you so much, dear devotees, for your happy, for your Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. Such a difficult, complex subject, and mentioned it so that we can understand a little bit and follow. It's very clear that you studied all these sandarbhas and your consciousness, and you gave a little bit of that to us. You shared it in the last 2-3 weeks. We're very, very grateful. So
yes. Anyway, if you have any questions, I'm always available in WhatsApp, like in the internet. You can take my WhatsApp, Telegram account, my email from the VHA organizers. If you have any questions, any complicated questions, whatever, in whichever way I can help you, I'm your humble servant. So I'm not finishing this course. Like actually, I can be in touch with you if you have any complicated questions or any help, any service you need. I'm your humble servant. So I'm ready to be in touch with all of you. Okay.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. And I hope if you are in Vrindavan, I hope to meet you. I hope you personally serve you, not just by speaking about Krishna, but maybe in some practical way. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay. So, thank you. Let us stop now. Grantaraja Shri Tattva-sandarbha ki jai. Grantaraja Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Sveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Jai.
Sarvagья, Prabhuji ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Sveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, dear devotees. Hare Krishna.